Okay, so hopefully everybody grabbed a protractor on the way in. Grab a protractor to you. Okay, so we have done the measurement unit. We have done the reasoning unit. Now we're going to do more reasoning, but with triangles and angles. Okay, so the biggest thing when you're doing angles, measuring angles, is the protractor. Okay? I remember watching The Simpsons one time, and Lisa was all excited to go to school because she had a math quiz, and if she got 100 on it, the teacher was going to give them protractors. And Homer thought that was ridiculous because they didn't even have a farm. Get it? It's one of those things they just slide it in there while you're listening to it, and they're like, "Hey, that's funny if you know what a protractor is. It has nothing to do." He was thinking tractor. You get it? Tractor, farm. Okay, so this whole unit is about triangles and angles, right? So we're going to learn everything we can about triangles, and we're going to make sure, and angles, and we're going to make sure that it's all in our study sheet. Test yesterday went really well. The average on the students that wrote it was 81, so that's good. And honestly, I believe the measurement unit is probably the hardest one, right? They're all different, I guess, so maybe at the end you'll say this is my, but I know I was talking with Faith and she's all, oh, is the next one going to be hard and is it going to suck? No, they're all the same difficulty, okay? The thing is, if you don't put in the time, see, some of you really put in some good time and your mark showed, right? And that's all that this stuff is, right? It's not tricking you. It's not meant to beat you up, right? We're working on a study sheet together. We're working in the lab. We're doing 2 practice tests. We're putting everything into place. So when you get to here, it should seem like just another day, okay? Not like it should not be a stressful time. If you're getting stressed for exams, then that means we didn't get you ready enough, right? So, and the biggest thing that helps you do well is just being here every day, right? If you're in class every day, this stuff isn't so daunting and overwhelming. Okay, so let's go through. First of all, we have to know all the different types of angles we are dealing with. Now, the first one is called the acute angle. Now, acute, if you think about it, I always think about even the word cute. If something's cute, it's little, it's small. Oh, look how cute it is, right? It's a small angle. It's between 0 and 90 degrees. Okay? And if you put your protractor on it, okay, I have my own protractor that I'm going to bring up. There's my protractor. I'll make it a little smaller, right? And if you see, now the way you use a protractor, do you see this little part down here? This little, where this comes in, this goes on your angle. Here, I'll even make this a bit bigger. So that goes on your angle there, and then you go from 0, and then you count up. See, I have this little thing that I'm going to go all the way up till I'm right about there. Why does that say 0 degrees? Bad. So I was doing it, and then when I let go, it doesn't give it to me anymore. So I actually have to, I guess, hold on to it. Okay, so that's about 36 degrees. So that's called an acute angle because it's between 0 and 90. Okay, and you see how it kind of gets confusing because there's a 180 here. Well, we don't use the 180. We always start at the 0. The 180 is if you would have started from the other side and you start at the outside 0 and you go all the way around. And that's how you get to the 180. Okay? Now, the right angle, everybody knows what a right angle is, right? That's 90 degrees. Then we have our obtuse. Okay? Obtuse is now between 90 and 180. Okay? So you see how we're just keeping on opening up. So, we were here, right? So we started acute. 90. Obtuse. And then we get all the way to what's 180, which is a straight angle. Now, after the straight angle, so we're going to keep on going around. After the straight angle, we have what's called the reflex. Okay, what's a reflex? Greater than 180. Sorry. Okay, now complete rotation. Now this one's not a very good idea of a complete rotation, especially if we don't know where the middle is, but that would have had to be in the middle. And we come all the way around, and now sometimes you'll hear this. Now that I've maybe said this, maybe you'll be, but a famous or a well-known saying is, you know, I've taken 180 degree in my life and now, so maybe, you know, you had addictions, you had whatever, and you were going down this road and you said, but I've made a 180 degree turn in my life and I've changed things, right? That's the real saying. But some people screw that up and they'll say the word 360. So I've made a 360 degree turn in my life, which means you haven't gone anywhere, right? So people use that wrong quite a bit, and you don't want to correct them. They're like, hey, they're pretty happy about how they changed their life. You don't want to tell them they're bad at math right now, right? But when you make, you know, when you make a 180, then you go in the other direction. Okay, when you make a 360, you're actually exactly where you were. Okay? Now, angles on the side of a straight line. Okay? So get your protractor out and find out what angle, doesn't matter, you could do X or Y. Using your protractor, see if you can find what angle X and angle Y is. Again, your protractor, the way it works. What the heck? Try to get my protractor on. It screwed up everything here. Oh man, I've lost 18 protractors up here. No matter. So remember, you always put the middle of the protractor in the vertex. Now if you're going to start here and you're going to start at 0 and you're going to count up. So it looks like angle Y would be 40 degrees. What now for angle, let's make this smaller here. For angle X, do you see you start at 0 here? And you count, so I'm going to bring this around. So you would start here at 0, and then you would count all the way up to here. And that's not good. It's not giving me the right. This one doesn't work for the other side. So you could see from 0, you just count up, and you can see that I would be at 140. Okay, so for X, we should have got 140. For Y, we got 40. Now, did I need to go find Y with my protractor? How else could I have done it? Yeah, X plus Y always equals 180. A straight line always equals. So if A on the next one, let's look at the next. If this was 120, what would B be? 60 degrees. Why? Because A plus B is 180 degrees. Now let's say P is 35. And let's say R is 55. What would Q be? 90 degrees, right. And P plus Q plus R should add up to 180 degrees. So using inductive reasoning, you may have heard that word before, angles on one side of a straight line always add up to 180 degrees? Now, two angles that add up to 180 degrees are called supplementary angles. Here's the question for you. I'm going to have to dig deep back in your brain. What do you call two angles that add up to 90? Nice. Complementary. Yeah. Also, if somebody says, hey, I like your hair. Get it? No. Compliment. Yeah. Complimentary. Tough crowd. Very, very tough crowd. Some of my best material getting wasted on you guys. Okay, next. So, what must A be on this one? How much? How'd you get that? So you want to go 180 degrees minus 155 degrees to get 25 degrees. Okay? What is B? $61. Because all we're going to make sure is these add up to. Okay? Now, see if you can find C, A, or C, D, and E. What's the first angle you should find? D? E? Well, what do you know C must be? What must these two add up to? So what must C be? 100. How about D? Because you could even turn your book if you needed to, but what must these two add up to? Right? So what must D be? 100. Okay. And then we could take this, and what must these two add up to? So this must be 80. And we're going to learn soon that whenever you have two lines across, opposite angles are equal. Right? And it also makes sense. 180, 180. Okay, these lines will always add up to 180. So, opposite angles at a vertex. Now, opposite angles are angles that, when there's an X, they are across from each other. And when they're across from each other, they are equal, always. They don't add up to 180. Don't get that mixed up. If they're beside each other in a line, they add up to 180. But when they're across from each other, they don't add up to anything. They are each other. Okay? So, just quickly, if I said A is 110, find B, C, D. See how fast you can find it. What would B, C, and D be? Stick up your hand as soon as you got them. Okay? Nor, what are they? What's B? What's C? D? Right? So A was 110, therefore this must be 110. Now these two have to add up to 180. So this must be 70. And D must be 70 as well. Also, these two must add up to 180. So I'm using two rules to verify the redundancy. There's more than one way to get some of these, and that's cool, right? As long as it's right. It's when people say that, like if I gave this as 100, don't write this down. And they give me this as 80. And I'm like, why did you do that? Well, you already said, you told me that all angles add up to 180. No, they don't, right? So, we want it to make sense too, right? So if this is 35, so if t is 35, what else is 35? S is 35. So how am I supposed to find u? You're right here. Subtract it from 180. So what would it be? 145. I agree with that. So opposite angles at a vertex. This is always your vertex, okay? Your vertex is where they all meet. Are equal. They are called vertically opposite angles. So the only way you're going to get messed up is if you actually mix up straight angles with vertically opposite. So opposite angles are always equal. Okay, so we've done straight angles add up to 180, opposite angles are equal. Now we're getting angles around a point. Now, what do you think that all of these three should add up to? 360. So we know that E plus F plus G should add up to 360. We know that M plus N plus P plus Q must add up to 360. And there's no rules to be able, if I give you E, you can't use any rules to find F or G. If I gave you E and G, you could find F. But if I just gave you E, you can't find this without your protractor. Okay, they're not vertically opposite each other, right? Even these are not opposite. Okay, they may look like they're across from each other, and I'll give you that, but they're not vertically opposite because these two lines do not cross perfectly. Okay? So anyway, this angle M is 80 degrees, angle N is 78 degrees, P is 112, and Q is 90. See, there's no special pattern or rhyme or reason. You literally have to take your protractor, show off with my awesome protractor again, and if you're going to do, say you're going to find angle M, what you have to do, see if I can, oh, okay, things just got crazy. Obviously I don't use this very much. Okay, I'm getting scared now, I have to get rid of this. Okay, one more time. Come on, protractor, don't fail me now. Oh, I got it. Oh yeah, that's how I can turn it. Okay, so I get it over here. Say I want to find angle M. I have to turn this so it's on 0. So 0, and then I would count up. And you see I get basically 80 degrees here. So if I turn this and I go up, it's like 80 degrees, right? Okay, so if we look at these, okay, what is A? How would you find it? Yeah, how would you find it? So what'd you get for angle A? 100 degrees, your math is correct. Okay, now this one might hurt a little bit. How are you supposed to find B and C? Okay, what was that you talking? What would you do? Ah, very nice. Okay, so if you can see, I'm going to get my red line going. Okay, this is a straight line. So these three must add up to 180, correct? So I can get angle C by going 180 minus 55 minus. So C is 65 degrees. Now, also I could have found B by look at on this side, if you can turn upside. See, these two must add up to 180. So this has to be 60. And you see we have our two, this will blow your mind even more, okay? If I go like this, I have two now straight lines. So do you see how my opposite, these two are equal? And 120, and these two would be equal too. So you can see just my two red lines, 120 equals 55 plus 65. Because, you know, if I got so many colors going here, if I do green, this angle plus and this angle, those are opposites, right? So they should have the same angle. So you're going to find as you're doing these that sometimes there's three ways to find that angle. And some students get all like, oh, I must be doing this wrong. There's three ways I'm trying to find. I'm saying you get the same answer every time? Yeah. Well, then you're probably doing it right. Okay. Now, the sum of angles in a triangle. Everybody knows this. What is it? If you take all the angles of a triangle always and add them together, you get 180 degrees. So no matter what triangle, if you cut all the angles, you see, and they will always, and you can put them on like a thing. See how they cut out number one? They just cut, 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 and you put them on here. You'll always get 180 degrees, right? What's the most common triangle? If you're walking down the street, which is the one you'd most likely run into? It's like the equilateral triangle. And what do we know about the angles? They're all the same, but what are they? 60, 60, 60, right? Showing you that they add up to 180. And their sides are also the same. Okay? Now, angles in an isosceles triangle. What is an isosceles triangle? Two angles are the same and two sides are the same. So if we were looking at these isosceles triangles, these two would be the same length and these two angles would be the same. In this one here, this side would equal this side and this angle would equal this angle. Okay, so if you did this one, this equals 65 degrees, this one equals 65 degrees, this equaled 2.8 centimeters, this was 2.8 centimeters. What's angle A then? $50 degrees? How'd you get that? Yeah, because 65 and 65 is 130. 180 minus 130 gives you your 50 degrees. So if you ever know two angles of a triangle, I guarantee you know all three. Right? If they give me two, it's pretty easy to find the third one. Okay, now this, exterior angles of a triangle, this is really, this is kind of cool, okay? So if I said this is, x is 100 degrees. What else could you tell me? C would equal 80 degrees. What else do we know? Like, we know that these two have to add up to 180. Does that make sense, that 100 plus 80 here? Now what else do we know now after doing this? Can we find A? Can we find B? But how much, if A plus B, what should they equal? If I added these two angles together, what should they equal? 100. Why? Because the whole triangle is 180, and 80 is already taken. So A plus B must equal 100. Look what else equals 100. Okay? So this is called the exterior angle. And these ABC are called interior angles. This is an adjacent angle to this one. Adjacent means we're beside each other. These are what's called opposite. So you could see that A plus B will always equal X. These two will always add up to this. These are called my interior angles. This is your exterior angle. Now these are actually called, because they are opposite this one, so this is where we get our rule here, because no matter what we do, we're going to write this. The exterior angle of a triangle, and I'm lazy, instead of writing out the word triangle, I just draw a really bad triangle, is equal to the sum of the two interior opposite angles. Okay, so if we go to this triangle here, if this angle here is 60 degrees and this is 70 degrees, what's 60 plus 70? 130. This will equal 130 degrees. See, the exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the two interior opposite. Do you see how this is not adjacent? This is the adjacent angle. That's the adjacent. These two will add up to 180. These three will add up to 180. Right? Therefore, these two are the same. Okay? So the fun of these now is when we are given questions and we have to go find all the angles. Okay, we'll start off some easy ones and then we'll work up. What must X be? So we're just going to start with this first triangle here. What must X be? 32. How are we getting that? So here I would go 180 minus 83 minus 65, and I will get 32 degrees. So what do I need to know to even do that one? I need to know that all the angles of a triangle add up to 180, or else I wouldn't even be able to start this one. And you don't want to get your protractor out, because some of them are drawn not even to scale, right? To see if you're using your protractor. Okay, now take a minute and see if you can find AB and CD of this one. Use everything you know, even use everything you don't know, and see if you can find this thing. Okay. So what's A? 151. How do you get A? So 180 minus 29, you get 151 for A. B, we would do the same thing, right? We would just go 180 minus 36, and hopefully we got 144. Okay, how do you find C? Okay, what do you get for C? 61. Now, this is a 90 here, right? What happens if you add these two together? What do you get? You get 151, the exterior angle, yeah. All right, so it'll support that. So when you're doing your test or whatever you do in a quiz, you can verify it a couple ways, right? Oh yeah, these two are supposed to always equal this one, right? So you can verify it. You know, you used one way, you used, oh, these must add up to 180. That's how I got my 61. But you can also, now B gives us, this is 144. We could just go 144 minus 90, or sorry, minus 36 and 90 to get this one. Or we can just, no, sorry, 144 is the sum of these two, right? So 144 minus 90 should give me this one as well. Or 180 minus 36 minus 90, I'll use this triangle to find it. Either way, we should get, this is supposed to be a D, I take it. It's a very crappy D. What, 54 degrees? Okay. Now, let's do the next one. There's a lot of things going on here. Where would you start? T? What is T? Because these two must add up to 180. So T is 109. Okay. What else? R isn't 109 because these are not two straight lines. Right? They both have to be like this one. This one takes a bend here. So S next? No, again, you can't do it because they're not, you can't, those aren't opposite. Okay, what's P? Because these two must add up to 180, so that's 52. What's next? Yeah, I would do Q. Because these two must add up to 180. So what's Q? Okay, now what would we do? R, because these must all add up to 180. So what's R? R, no, I'm not getting that for R. 121 might be too high. Because these three have to add up to 180, right? Okay. Now, what if I added these two together? What should I get? I should get 128. That's a way to verify you didn't make a mistake. Remember, these two should add up to this. And then what's the last one? How am I going to find S? There's two ways to find S. Because these two must add up to 180, and all of them must add up to 360, right? So what are we getting for S? 121, yeah. So these just take, this is why this one's called reasoning with angles, and because you still have to use reasoning to be able to get there. Okay? Now maybe this one's a little tougher. We need to find D, E, and F. Is D 34? How'd you get that? Can't hear you. Both angles are the same? How do you know that? I never, because these lines are the same, therefore this is a isosceles triangle, right? So this has to be 34. If you didn't know that, you couldn't start this one. Now how do I find E? What would E be? 112. How do you know that? Because these must add up to 180. Okay, now there's two ways to find F. What two ways? Yeah? Which is? Okay, that's the one way, because this angle is supposed to equal these two when you add them together. Now what's another fail-safe way to know you did it right? Both of these have to add up to 180. Okay, summary. Okay, so we have used inductive reasoning to suggest some angle relationships. All of the conjectures are true, and some of them will be proved using deductive reasoning later, because we haven't proved any of these using variables. Okay, variables were the EDF, but not using to prove this. So this is what we've learned. Angles on a straight line add up to 180. Okay, so what's that saying? These two, so if this was 30, this would be 150, right? Opposite angles at a vertex. So opposite angles must be created with two straight lines. So if this is 70, this must be 70. Angles around a point. So if you have this, 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 and that, all of these must add up to 360. Angles of a triangle add up to 180. So x plus y plus z equals 180 degrees. And the exterior angle of a triangle equals the sum of the two interior angles. So if I draw it like this, and I draw a triangle here, if this is x, y, and z, and say I called this A would equal y plus z. So these two would equal the same thing. And A plus x would equal 180. And x plus y plus z equals 180. So a lot of relationships going on there. Okay, so what we're working on today is 1 to 9, and we'll omit 6. And I'll be coming around and I'll show you your test marks and where you are in the course right now and all that stuff.